Hi guys, got another battle report for you here from Field of Glory. This is the ancient and medieval version of Field of Glory, and this is the tabletop wargaming variety, so if you're looking for the video game kind, you're in the wrong place. This is my first full-blown battle report, although I did one before. This is the first time I've incorporated pictures and Battle Chronicler into it. This is going to be from the book Oath of Fealty. The two armies are the Teutonic Knights, controlled by myself, against the Mongol Invasion, controlled by my brother-in-law Nate, somewhere around the year 1240. This is on the 28mm scale, and we're playing with about 500 points. Here's a picture of what the battle may have looked like. You got your Teutonic Knights trying to control their territory in Latvia or Lithuania, somewhere like that, and the Mongols coming in over the steppes to wreak havoc on them. Alright, so here's a look at the board. Couple quick ground rules first, though. For the sake of having enough models, we use one horse per base, regardless of what type of horse model it is, whether it's light horse, cavalry, knights, etc. So I'll try to make that clear. B, we do a lot of proxying. We use what we have. Try not to put a lot of money into it that we don't have. If you're someone that insists on having a fully painted, historically accurate army, you're probably going to want to stop watching. I think you'll still enjoy it, though, so for most of you. So hang in there. You'll see there's a line of rocks across the bottom. That actually marks the edge of the table. The table itself is 6x4, but we're only playing on 5x4 since it's such a small point value. Started the two armies just a little closer together to move the game along. We're both new to playing with terrain, so there's very minimal terrain. I rolled it up before my brother-in-law came over and stuck with basically the bare minimum the book would allow for. There's two green rectangles. Those are both open fields. And then there's a hill on the left. That's a steep hill. There was an orchard on the top left part of the screen near where those brown-colored horses are. But when I rolled the adjustment roll, it was to remove it, and I figured if Nate was there, he probably would have wanted to do that, so I went ahead and removed it from the board. Teutonic Knights on the right, Mongols on the left in this picture. Here's what it's going to look like whenever you see Battle Chronicler incorporated. The blue is the Mongols, the orange is the Teutonic Knights. So let's begin our introductions. We're looking at this part of the board here. This is from my opponent's point of view, although it's my guys, the Teutonic Knights. On the far left edge of the screen, those multicolored horses are Mercenary Knights, MK. In the terrain is mounted Turcopoles, B. In case you're wondering what a mounted Turcopole is, it's just a light horse. It's supposed to be like a local that the Teutonic Knights hired into service or pressed into service. There's a row of infantry, and that's actually made up of two different units. C on the Battle Chronicler stands for crossbowmen, and there's 3 bases in the front row, 6 total. And then next to them there's 4 total bases of spearmen, 2 wide. Behind the spearmen there's a guy on a red horse with brown antlers, and he's the commander-in-chief. He's a mid-level commander. Attached to the same battle line is right here, and the MC are mounted crossbowmen, 6 of them. Just to the right of them, there's some guys on green horses. Those are the Brother Knights, so that's the best knight unit, I guess you could say. Attached to them is a yellow horse with a blue rider, and that's my low-level commander. And then off to the far right is another unit of mounted Turcopoles. These are the mounted Turcopoles A. Swinging the camera around right here, so this is from my left to my right from a gameplay point of view on Nate's side. The all-black horses on the far left with only one rider is Light Horse A. Directly behind them, what looks like High Elves are actually the best equipped cavalry. Best equipped does not mean it's the best unit, that's just the name of the unit. As I've mentioned before in Field of Glory, a lot of times the names of the units can be a little misleading. Directly behind them is a low-level commander who's all plain gray. To the right of the hill is what looks like 4 Chaos Knights. They're actually the Guard Cavalry, which is the best cavalry level the Mongols have access to. and attached to them at the back is their commander-in-chief. He's the mid-level commander. Scooching over just a little here in this area, we've got that same guard cavalry. Next to them is OCA, which is the very cleverly named Other Cavalry A, which is kind of a mid-grade cavalry. To the right of them is Other Cavalry B, and they're easy to point out because they have white horses in the front row. In front of them, there's a unit of all gray horses with no riders at all. That's Light Horse B, and to the right of them is all brown horses, Light Horse C. Here's my boys playing their own war game. Wanted to sneak that in there. I asked them what it was called, and they just said it was called Medieval. But looks like they're having fun. Alright, so Teutonic Knights got the first turn. Strategy-wise, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm kind of thinking try to keep that central line together and just try really hard not to get flanked. That's really the only strategy at this point. So, moving up all across the front here with some mild adjustments. Mongol Invasion's turn is going to look pretty similar too. Just scooching up, coming in kind of aggressively with the light horse. Not real sure what his strategy is, but again, we're both fairly new to the game, so we're not real big on strategy, more like we'll adjust it on the fly and see what happens. At the end of the first turn, this is what everything looks like positionally with Battle Chronicler, just moving ahead. Nothing real fancy. Just another picture of what it looks like across the battle lines. Alright, next turn for the Teutonic Knights. Broke up that battle line in the middle by scooching the crossbowmen ahead. I want to get them in range to shoot at some of those light horse up there. And backing up with the mounted Turcopol's A at the bottom of the screen here. Trying to avoid getting flanked and having my flank rolled up. And the Mercenary Knights at the very top of the screen coming in pretty aggressively. Looks kind of like that when you put it all together. Mongol Invasion's turn 2. They're also just kind of scooching up, moving in. Nothing real fancy going on here, just a lot of positioning. Now, what you're noticing is the best equipped cavalry and the Light Horse A at the very bottom of the screen from the picture point of view, or on the left side of the screen from the Battle Chronicler point of view, are getting set up to try to flank my brother knights. And at this point I realize I probably pushed ahead a little too aggressively with them. Those brother knights can, one-on-one, they can beat any unit on the board, so I should have probably just committed them to getting both of those units on the left wiped out before worrying about putting them elsewhere. So that was a little bit of a blunder on my part, and you'll see later in the game that does come into play. In shooting phase, crossbowman did put a hit on the light horse here. That's what that little yellow card with the axe on it's for. Alright, so on the Teutonic Knights turn 3, I'm thinking I can't have those units both coming into my flank. They're just going to cause problems. So what I decided to do is charge my mounted Turcopols into his light horse. They're both light horse. My hope is they can just tie them up for the rest of the game. Hopefully they'll just sit there, look at each other, and fight, and that'll be fine. He has a little bit of advantage because he is swordsman when it gets to melee. I have light spear, so I'm hoping I can at least do a little ding on him in impact to prevent him from having advantage the rest of the game. And after impact and the rest of maneuver, this is what it looks like. My Turcopols did put 1 wound on his guys. And that's great, because what that means is now when we come to melee, he's going to be disordered. So he'll have 1 fewer dice, which kind of makes up for the fact that he'll have 1 point of advantage over me. For the rest of this game, just assume, if I don't say anything, that they just sit there looking at each other and having a pillow fight. I'll tell you if that changes. And also the Brother Knight's turn to face that best equipped cavalry to try to not get flanked. Just a quick look at the right side of the board in terms of how things are shaping up. By the way, every single unit the Mongols have is equipped with bows, and they are shooting at my guys from time to time, but I'm not going over each individual volley fired unless it actually does something of consequence. When I shoot at him in this turn, in my turn, those light horse are getting pummeled a little bit, so they got hit a second time. Dropped down the cohesion ladder. They're all the way down to fragmented now. Just a quick look at what everything looks like at the end of this turn. Oh, and yes, I did add a Battle Chronicler shot on that. Anytime you see a little skull, that's a drop down the cohesion ladder. So 1 skull is disordered, 2 is fragmented, 3 is broken. Alright, Mongol Invasion turn 3 now. Some more aggressive pushing ahead. And as you look at the bottom of the screen, you're going to notice that... oops, sorry about that. Jumped ahead a little too easily, but I can describe it here. You'll notice that the guard cavalry are trying to position in such a way that if I charge the best equipped cavalry, I'll get hit in the flank, and that would be utterly devastating for the Brother Knights. Other than that, one of those other cavalry pushing ahead, getting pretty close to the mounted crossbowmen, and not sure what the situation is. I wonder if maybe he thinks that he would have an advantage there, but actually, even though they have crossbows, the mounted crossbowmen are also cavalry swordsmen, so they'd be about even there, I think, if they did get into combat. And they probably will. Just to look at the other side of the board, see what's going on. His light horse, the all-gray light horse that's already down to fragmented, they're going to try to get out of the range of fire of those crossbowmen so they don't get plunked again. Alright, so moving on to my turn, number 4. Bottom of the screen, my Brother Knights don't know what to do at this point. I'm just trying desperately to arrange it so that by rule, they can't both flank me. If the best equipped cavalry and the guard cavalry both hit me in the front, I'm really not going to be too upset. And if you've read the rule book, you know the way it works is to count as a flank charge, you have to have at least one of your bases in the unit wholly behind a front line, extending laterally from the front edge. It's kind of hard to describe, but right now, neither of the units are in a flank position, and there's going to be a lot of little tiny maneuvers for a while here. In the middle, well, I'll get to that on the next slide. Gave away a little bit of what's going to happen here later, because I got a little too far ahead with my Battle Chronicler. The overview picture you saw was actually taken after the impact phase was done, and I kind of did it wrong when I first did the impact phase. I did it Warhammer style, where I had the defensive spearmen like come into the flank and like line up flush with the flank, and then I realized that based on the rules I described earlier about flanks, even though they're touching the flank, it didn't qualify as a flank charge. So this is the actual correct positioning, and those spearmen will end up in an overlap position. But they did charge in, and they both make contact. This is the impact phase. And I forgot to mention, but in that impact phase, there was no damage done by either side. The crossbowmen were able to still partially shoot at these light horse and actually broke them here. And when they went to fled, they... oh yeah, here's my fun graphic. They got shot at, and then they fled in this direction, and they actually ended their flee move right on top of their allies, and the rules say you actually split it so that the front row's on one side and the back row's on the other side. And it's not going to matter, but if they had been contacted at that point, it would have caused some additional problems for them. Alright, so come back over to the middle here, and now we're going to fight in the melee phase. And after all the rolls and everything, everybody passes. We have a big old pillow fight. So nothing happens at all, even though I had a bunch of advantages. I should have done a lot better than that. Back over on the far right side of the board, from my point of view, those light horse that got shot at are just continuing their flee move, so this must be the joint action phase. And as you can see, there's no commanders on their side anywhere near them, so the odds of them being able to rally are slim to none. And here's just an overview shot of what's going on at this point. At this point, I think you can safely say that the Teutonic Knights have an advantage, but obviously still far from decided. Also, at this point, we are about 2 or 3 hours into the game, and we're slow, I admit that. But my brother-in-law Nate actually had to leave, but I got his permission to go ahead and finish up the game. So from this point on, I'm actually playing both sides. So if you think the Teutonic Knights, or I'm sorry, if you think the Mongols do anything wrong, you can put the blame squarely on me. Here's the Battle Chronicler overview of what's happened. So the Mongols have one unit that's broken and starting to flee off the board, and one that's disordered way over on the left. Alright, Mongol Invasion turn 4. The pinching in at the bottom is still going on, and we'll zoom in on both of these situations here. Now, one limitation of Battle Chronicler is, well, two things actually. First of all, if you expand your frontage from this wide angle, it doesn't show that maybe there's only one guy in the back row, so the BEC, the best equipped cavalry, looks really wide. It's not actually that wide. Also, it's hard to work in commanders on this, so I don't even show it on Battle Chronicler. And I'm not super good at getting the exact ratios, so now those two units are touching. It's not perfect, but it does give you a real good overview. On the right-hand side, you see the light horse C is actually backing up away from the mercenary cavalry, and the OCB, the other cavalry B, is coming in to have a valiant charge on the crossbowmen, presumably. Wasn't real sure what else to do with them. Okay, so here's all that maneuvering that I was talking about. Now this is actually from my opponent's side, which I shouldn't have done that because it just makes the battle report more confusing. I apologize, but yeah, you can see the pinching in maneuver going on here, and they're going to start a couple turns in a row of throwing several dice, I think 3 dice each, so 6 total dice of arrow shots at my brother knights. And you'll also notice my brother knights are in such a position where there's this stalemate going on, because no matter how the Mongols maneuver, they cannot get a charge in where one is in the flank, because you'll notice that little piece of their unit on the right sticks out past my edge, so technically it does not qualify as a flank. So they really don't want to initiate the charge because they'd both be in the front. I could still probably do a lot of damage. I don't want to initiate the charge because if I do, I'd have to commit to one of these two units, and then the other one, now that I'm turned flush, would get a flank charge in the subsequent turn. So we got a real weird standoff thing going on here. Over on this side of the board, again, this is from my opponent's side, just showing you how they're maneuvering around. Just a better camera angle. Alright, so here's the result of the shooting phase, and you can see basically they need 5s and 6s, but since they're rolling 6 dice, it doesn't take that much to get shots in on me. And this is where I kind of started to figure out, aha, this is how the Mongols can win, is ganging up and having two, preferably three, but at least two units shooting at the same unit on one turn. Now my brother knights do pass their cohesion test, just barely though. Here in the middle, in the ongoing melee, this time the mounted crossbowmen do 2 hits, and the bad guys only get 1 hit. The yellow dice up at the top, I think from this point on in the match I use yellow dice for cohesion tests and death rolls, and they rolled a 12, so obviously they failed that. And you can see there's a little marker there showing the result of the cohesion test. Oh, I'm just zooming in, showing you what the marker looks like for disordered. Bloop. So here's an overview of the board. Both sides have had 4 turns each now, starting to get real bunchy, especially on the bottom half of the screen, and we're going to see how it goes from here. So I'm going to end this video, and you can see the end of the game in Part B. Stay tuned.